As I understand it, this software will help companies distribute, track, schedule appointments on a massive scale. How does Work.com for vaccines actually work?
Well, it's great to see you again, Emily, in this weird time, sitting here with AirPods on in my house. Nothing could be more symbolic of 2020. From the beginning, as you know, we've had a singular focus at Salesforce, which is how do we use our business as a platform for change to help all of our stakeholders navigate this unprecedented year and this unprecedented pandemic. We distributed 50 million units of personal protective equipment. We launched Work.com a few months ago, which is really helping businesses and communities like the state of Rhode Island reopen. And now with Work.com for vaccines, as you said, this is the largest mass vaccination campaign in human history. And the logistical magnitude of it is just unprecedented. We're talking about hundreds of millions or even billions of vaccines being distributed in a very short period of time. And we think technology can play a big part in making that successful. And it's a great privilege to bring our platform to bear to help in that process.
So this is something we've never really attempted on a scale this large. What do you imagine the vaccination process would look like without Work.com? How will this improve what will certainly be a huge logistical challenge?
Well, when you think about the logistical complexity of distributing a vaccine at this scale, it's everything from managing inventory, clinical scheduling, clinical vaccine administration, monitoring patient outcomes, monitoring things like boosters on the right schedule for patients. And, to really get to the other side of this pandemic, which is going to take much longer than I think any of us hoped for, software is really beneficial to actually operate that at scale and to make sure that we have an equitable distribution of this vaccine. Obviously, this is unprecedented in human history, but thanks to the power of technology, we think that we can really distribute this faster, more effectively than we could have in any point in human history before this.
Bret, we've got a bunch of terminal users watching here. One of them asking the question, how will you guarantee privacy in this endeavor? Obviously, you've got a lot of people concerned about their data in the age of technology, and you have more people perhaps than ever before who might be seeking out this vaccine.
It's a great question. We've actually, with Work.com broadly, which we've been using to help with contact tracing, with emergency response management, and now with this vaccine, so many questions that we as employers and we as society have never asked before are now more relevant than ever before. And, I think fundamentally every company, every community, every state, every country is going to deal with this a little differently. And our main priority is how can we bring our platform to bear to, meet the needs of all of those individual stakeholders? Just in the companies that you've spoken with on this show, their reopening process is different depending on their industry. We think this will be the same with vaccine administration across the world. And we're just trying to make a platform that's flexible to accommodate whatever the public health experts deem is the right way to distribute it to their communities.
Now, your CEO, Mark Benioff, announced on Twitter that Salesforce is going to be hiring thousands more people in the next year. Where will they be hired? What will they be working on? Will they be in the office or remote?
I think one of the themes that we really see at Salesforce is that every executive we talk to now is really coming to grips with the fact that this pandemic is not going to, when this pandemic is over, the way we engage with as employees and with our customers isn't going to snap back to the way things were. If you want to know what the future looks like, it looks a lot like right now. All the trends we've seen with consumer goods companies going direct to consumer, with retail doing buy online, curbside pickup, the digitization of the economy that COVID has accelerated, many of those trends will remain on the other side of it. So when we think about hiring, we're really thinking about how do we make our platform as relevant as possible so that every single one of our customers can accelerate in this all digital work anywhere world that's been created by this pandemic. And I think that's the big change I've seen in sentiment over the past few months, which is CEOs, rather than saying, when this thing is done, here's what I'm going to do, they're really coming to grips with the fact that this is the new normal. And they really need to transform themselves, recognizing that many of the habits we've developed in this pandemic will remain.
Now, Bret, you were once the CTO of Facebook, and you and I have talked a lot over the years about how the company has evolved. You were credited with inventing the like button, but it seems like dislike for Facebook is now at an all-time high. Benioff, for example, has said social media is the new cigarettes. What do you think? Do you think that Facebook at 3 billion people across all of its platforms is too big to govern itself? Is it doing more harm than good in the world today?
I do think I remember, my parents talking about when a television first showed up in their living room and forming the social norms around that. And, over the past decade, as social media has gone, from popular to ubiquitous, I think we as a society are still grappling with the broad impact of that. The role of the media, the role of individuals, how to determine exaggeration, and from falsities to truth. So I do think this is possibly one of the most important conversations we're having as a society right now. I don't think the answers are simple, though. I think social media has done so much amazing good for society, giving people a voice that previously didn't have it. But I also think with all of these technologies, we can't assume that technologies only do good. And one of our responsibilities as technologists is to ensure that we're taking into account the full scope and full magnitude of the technologies we create, which is why this conversation is so important right now. So I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'm really happy that we as a society are having these hard discussions so that we can make these technologies maximize their good and minimize their bad.